He was that good, wasn't he? We're going to talk about Catherine Austin Fitts as soon as we listen to Prince. Catherine Austin Fitts was an investment banker and the Assistant Secretary of HUD. She's a Wall Street person. She's a Washington, D.C. person. And of course, this is going up on Substack. Of course, we're playing Prince because we're celebrating all things Minneapolis and Minnesota. So we're calling these Nooners Who's There? And I think you'll take away from Catherine Austin Fitts that kind of vibe. Like, what are you going to do about it? Like, Trump and Minnesota and Greenland and everything. Like, she calls it Mr. Global. And then people ask her, who's Mr. Global? And she says, nobody really knows. I call it Mrs. Rothschild because it's funny and goofy, but not necessarily wrong. And then tomorrow I'll do a piece on Shahid King Bolson, who's our very, very pissed off Muslim friend. But Catherine Austin Fitts, as well as being a Wall Street and inside the Beltway person under the first Bush administration, is also a sincere Christian and Quaker and small town Tennessean. So let's get in it. Huh? Yeah, that guy came from Minneapolis. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to play some little clips by Catherine Austin Fitts, and then I'm going to help you with some of the stuff that you may not be used to. If you followed me for some time, you'll see that there's a lot of overlap with what she talks about. To be frank about it, I think she is more clear, and that's what she's really good at, is taking some of these big ideas and really putting them. You won't really get like a political reaction to her. She's flying so high that you should be sympathetic to her if you're a very sincere Christian. Like I said, she's from a very conservative part of the world. Or you're really worried that the government has become very heavy-handed, that, as Vitalik says, we have big government, big tech, and big mob all together. So, without any further ado, so this is from today, I think.
Countries that don't have sufficient food and energy.
Now, hold on. Okay, let me fuck that up as usual.
In real trouble. And I keep hearing the dollar's going to collapse. The dollar's going to collapse. The dollar's not going to collapse. What's going to collapse is global trade. And what that is going to do is push up prices and inflation. But that's not a currency collapse. That is a deglobalization and a dramatic change in the economics of resources. And countries that don't have sufficient food and energy are in real trouble. And that means inflation. The reason I keep hitting home inflation, we're all in for an inflation problem, but that is peak everything. It's a growing population and peak everything. It's not a currency problem per se. Now, there are plenty of currency problems, but you need to think of all of this in terms of real assets, the real assets you and I use, and what it means to the availability of real assets. Because if the global trade routes break down and the U.S. is not going to be the cop and Trump's not going to police the global order, you know something? The supply chain, every supply chain on the planet is thrown up in the air and the deck's reshuffled. And it could be very, very chaotic, and it could shrink the economy dramatically. So there's real trouble upon us, but you need to think about it. You know, people, they're too...
Okay, I'm going to stop right there. Hi, Live and Learn. I've seen you many... What do you mean, is this a joke? Is what a joke? This is not a joke. What she just said is probably the clearest explanation of the economic condition of the world better than anybody you're going to hear on TV, better than me, although everything she just said, I've been trying to say for 4 or 5 years. It's all about real world assets. The crypto community who keeps talking about real world assets is on the right track. It's all about food and energy. That's what Greenland is about. That's what Venezuela is about. That's what everybody should go watch Landman, not only because it's a great show and Billy Bob Thornton is great and his wife is super hot, but because that is what we're going to live off of. That oil is why the dollar's not going to collapse. The Midwest, the soil is why the dollar's not going to collapse. The Marcellus Shale is why the dollar's not going to collapse. That is a insufficient explanation. People, whenever you start talking about crypto, and Bruno used to be called Bruno Crypto, and people would just come on and they'd hear me go on like this, and I would say a lot of the things she's saying, and they'd go, the dollar's going to collapse. And I'd be like, no, the world just isn't that simple. It's still 70% of global trade, at least 70%, is still settled in the dollar. Is it going down? Yeah, but it's not like just going to turn off because China creates a new currency with the BRICS. That's a false news. That's fake news. And as usual, I need a charger. I finally figured out my problem is my charger is weak. So, speaking of supply chains, I got on Amazon and ordered a couple. So that's the first one right there. Now, her handle on... Dude, check this out. This is the best shit on TikTok. There's nobody that can outrun Catherine Austin Fitts on anything. Okay? Maybe on tech. Maybe there's like some little... I'll tell you where the tech's going that maybe she doesn't like... Because her thing isn't like blockchain. Like Bruno is supposed to be like a blockchain channel. And that is Farcaster. Farcaster is now... You don't even know what Farcaster is. I'm about 3 years ahead of this. And this is why you listen to me. Farcaster is an Ethereum-based decentralized Twitter. People, I've referenced it and they're like, well, people can still see into that. I know, but they can't control the content. Like TikTok is just completely controlled by Death Star. Like we all know that now. It's like Larry Ellison and the usual suspects, Andreessen and whatever. And the key is they can't take away your content. Okay? They can come pick you up and throw you in a black van and tie you upside down in a tarp until you asphyxiate on your own urine. That's what they do in Palestine. But they're not going to turn off your content. So I'm just going to jump through a couple of her videos. You can go see them again. Her handle is Catherine Austin Fitts. Her symbol is this thing.
There's now a clear divide between...
You know, I don't know how to pick between people's stories. And anyways,
There's now a clear...
We're going to get to that. Her thing is called the Solari Report. Solari, like a solarium. Okay, so that's today's thing. Again, she's explaining to you that the dollar's not going to collapse. So the craziness of Trump is the resetting of everything back to North America. That's a pretty good way to say it. North America to include Greenland. Canada is sort of part of that, sort of not. Like, we're not going to make it the 51st state, but it sort of already is the 51st state, so let's all calm down. And Carney puts on a good show that he's like standing up to Trump, but he's part of it, okay? Everybody in the Western world is part of what she describes as a system run by Mr. Global, okay? Really pay attention to this. Tell me if this doesn't sound like... She doesn't like go to blockchain and AI like as quick as I do, but in some ways I'm trying to give you like her underpinnings of what she says is happening, and then I go, why don't we all use this new blockchain stuff?
I think we're coming into a time when enough people know and enough people are pushing back that this can start to be fun. because you can find your tribe. You can't find your tribe unless you're pushing back.
That's true. That's quite true. Yep.
Right. And so the people I see who are having the most fun, they have found a way to push back, and in doing so, they found their tribe.
Yep.
Yeah. So find your tribe. I think we're coming.
It's hard to avoid.
That's just
Yep.
Yeah. So find your tribe. I think we're coming.
It's hard to avoid.
that's just she's not telling you the crypto story or the blockchain story or the AI story, like the localized AI. So like AI a year ago was OpenAI and Sam Altman were going to take over the world, and just like everything else that they do, they fucked it up. And now people are like, no, we're just going to like have local AI. We don't need Sam Altman. We don't need all these weirdos running our life. I think 2026, I think January of 2026, for someone who's like a junkie of all this social media about technology, is right around the holidays. It became this thing where like, no, we're just going to get off these big systems. We don't need TikTok is just slop. It's just 2 days ago, I tried to get a 7-pointed star with Google Gemini, and it kept giving me a pentagram, which is 5 points. And I kept saying, that star only has 5. This is the thing that's going to take over the world, right? It doesn't know the difference between 5 stars and 7 stars. I'm just going to keep popping through these. The Solari Report, Catherine Austin Fitts. Here we go.
The conclusion that a deal is being made to divide the globe into 3 pieces: an American piece, a Russian piece, and a Chinese piece.
Right. And I think that's happening right now. And I think there's far more coordination behind the scenes. You know, it looks like it's chaotic, but it's not.
Right.
For the Americas to have resource self-sufficiency, you need everybody from Greenland all the way down through the Panama Canal, all the way down to Antarctica. So that's one thing. And then Russia gets, you know, sort of the north, and China gets the south and the South China Sea. And if you just do a map of the globe, we get this, Russia gets this, and China gets this. It's just being reorganized. You're making Trump look like he's, you know, crazy. But the reality is the United States is in a debt trap. And if the bankers didn't want this happening, it would stop in a second.
That's right.
Trump's a puppet on a leash.
It's hard to avoid the
Now, like me, she was very pro-Trump in 2016. She took him at his word that he was this, and I did too, that he was this real ardent nationalist. He was going to bring like the best, if you like your American history, of Andrew Jackson and destroy the Federal Reserve, which is slowly happening, by the way. He is winding down the Federal Reserve. I did a piece long before the election. I said, I think, and I didn't know what I was talking about. I just said, I think Trump's going to like take over. I did a piece called Trump and Treasury, and then I did a piece called Trump and the Fed, and those things are happening. I'm not like pounding my chest here. I'm just like deep into this like she is. And this is why this goofy thing that like Jerome Powell like fucked up the budget to reconstruct the Fed. Come on, like it's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. But what it is, it's the big Hunger Games drama that shows that the Fed is being put in its place. The Fed's sort of being put away. Okay, the Treasury is like, we're going to go back to North America. Don't anybody fuck with us. Don't anybody like sell all your treasuries one afternoon or something like that, or we'll send the fucking Marines. So just, you've heard that from me. I'm a little bit more colorful than she is, but I'm just going to flip through these one after another. They're all on TikTok for free. Go do it. I would very much like to meet this woman. I have followed her for, I think, 10 years.
One of the great ironies, I think, from a US, you know, the population's perspective in terms of electing Trump is that, you know, he made a great deal of opposing central bank digital currency because, quite rightly, a sizable number of the population were very concerned about that, and rightly so. But what he's offered instead, what he's gone ahead and done instead through an executive order, which is one of the first things that he announced when he first came into office, is to create the for want of a better expression, the enabling environment, the legal enabling environment for stable coins, which are arguably worse
Why are they worse?
Because there's no oversight, there's no control, they're privately issued. There's
I'm telling you right now, like in those 20 seconds, you could take that argument and you could go to the Harvard Business School, the World Economic Forum, the Silicon Valley, anybody that speaks English, and you would win the argument. Okay? There was a Russian minister who said, America's just going to default into crypto. That's what he just described. So Trump is like the nationalist that we're not going to have a digital cryptocurrency, but we are. Shh, just don't. I think it already exists. It's already in the system. They don't like announce things and they come 3 years. It's just like Doge, right? Doge came in and Ripple took over the federal budget. But what he's explaining to you is these stable coins are all private. So we got rid of one private banking institution called the Federal Reserve. We're going to replace it with another called Ripple. So one of the things that I do is try to add the tech to this. I think I'm just a little bit more, I find the tech very interesting. And a lot of the things that she's saying means we're all going to have to move into the tech a little faster than we maybe want to. For example, we're in the process right now of finally, I know it's taken so long, it's almost a year, of finally beginning the distribution of tokens on our Substack channel. Who cares about it? We're not doing a coin. We're not doing some flip thing that's going to make money. We're bringing you into a token because that's your Ethereum wallet address identity on the internet. Okay? When you get onto Farcaster, it won't know you as Joe Blow. It'll know you as that. Now, can they connect it? Yeah. But the point is they can't come in and just seize it. Like TikTok just took like 3 years of my work away and turned it off. I guess it's on a server somewhere. They took down a channel of mine after October 7th. So these new systems are not foolproof. You're not going to get away from Mr. Global. Okay. When I started this, I was like, people, you're not going to do crypto outside the banking system on the dark web and like not pay taxes and the FBI can't see it. That's just goofy. It's just naive. It's not how the internet works. Like the internet's run by DARPA. Like everybody grow up and see what the art of the possible is. I'm going to flip to the next video and I don't even know what it is.
There's now a clear divide between those supporting Israel and those criticizing Israel, and that's not going to change. I think it has made it acceptable. His murder has made it acceptable for people now to say, yes, I'm a Christian, and no, I do not support the state of Israel. That's a huge sea change. And what it's done is it's fractured the MAGA base, to get it back to your question. And as a result of that, you've got a whole wing of the MAGA base questioning the Trump administration, questioning its policies, and doing so very openly. What that's going to lead to, in my opinion, once that base latches on to some of these other stories, it's gonna fix this year on the digital ID and Bitcoin and all of that other stuff is going to be attached to it.
That's Dr. Joseph Farrell. He's a brilliant, brilliant guy. He has a PhD in patristics from Oxford. What is patristics? Is the church fathers on the Orthodox side. So you have to know Greek, just like to understand the church fathers on the Western side, it's all in Latin. It's all Augustine and that team that created the Catholic Church. His degree is in patristics. Like, what a weird thing for an American to know. And he's a brilliant guy. And what he just said is like right on the money. Remember during the Civil War, remember in 4th grade, kids? The Republican Party grew out of the Whig Party, which collapsed. And I wonder, this is very fourth turning, if I could make an argument right now for either one. Is it possible that one of the parties will collapse? What he just said is that the Republican Party is breaking up, disintegrating. It's the Marjorie Taylor Greene thing. I did a lot of work on Marjorie Taylor Greene. So the fracture, and it's not just Tucker Carlson, who I think is controlled opposition, but people people even like Matt Gaetz are willing to go, who's like been sort of marginalized. It's like the people that are marginalized are willing to fight back. Mike Johnson, isn't willing to. The House isn't Speaker of the House isn't willing to directly take on Trump because he's too close to the how do they say that? Too close to the beast or something like that.
In a survival situation, which is actually what this is. The people who do the best are the ones who recognize it and change their paradigm the quickest and reorient themselves, right? The main thing is...
That's it, people. Like, it doesn't matter if you think taxes should go this way or that way, or you're going to live in the city or you're going to live in the country, if you're going to get off the grid or on the grid or whatever, but your paradigm has to be flexible right now. Let me just say a couple words on that. And I'll make this short. Yeah, I'll keep this to a half an hour. So I'm having breakfast with my dad this morning, and he goes on and on and on. He thinks all of this activity, he thinks, comes out of the mind of Trump. And my dad's not quite a boomer. He's the silent generation. And he grew up in the suburb outside of Pittsburgh where Westinghouse was, which is the biggest industrial company in the world. Not heavy industrial, but electrical, for obvious reasons. It was like GE. And so he grew up in a world where he would say, it wasn't a question of where you'd get a job, it was where you wanted to go work. Like it was just unlimited jobs in the late 50s, early 60s. And then we sort of through the Reagan thing became like this corporatist, what are we going to do when we let Wall Street take over everything? And that's really how Reagan and Bill Clinton are really on the same team. But see, he thinks that's still in play. He doesn't understand that there's nothing behind the corporate. There's no people anymore. You follow me? There's no corporations aren't like Mitt Romney said, like they're groups of people. There's no people, right? So he's done this thing for 6 months trying to get $1,000 back from his KitchenAid refrigerator. So we're writing letters and doing all this shit. And he thinks he's eventually going to get somebody on the phone, like that goofy insurance commercial that says, don't become like your parents, right? That you're going to meet the manager and explain to the manager that the cabbage has gone bad and somebody should go fix that. And the manager gives a shit and is going to go get some new cabbage. They don't understand that the manager is just there and wishes he was home and could give two fucks about the cabbage. Nobody cares about anything anymore. I don't mean to sound like Tim Dillon, but that's where we are. Now we're at the point that the corporations don't even care about being corporations anymore. They're just run by some fucking algorithm at BlackRock, which is run by people in the tunnels somewhere with the kids in the cages. You know what I mean? There's no way to take an 85-year-old man and say, it's over. It's just this. And that's his point. The best thing to be able to do right now is change your paradigm of whatever it is, whether you're talking about the US dollar or gold or crypto or currencies or where your food's going to come from or whatever. You have to be able to, and if you want philosophy, it's Thomas Kuhn, the revolutions of, how's it go? It's the famous thing where in order to understand some sort of revolution, you have to understand both sides. So you have to be able to in your brain go back and forth between different paradigms in order the structure of paradigm shifts or something like that by Thomas Kuhn.
You have these power factions
this is all the
that are
Solarian
often aligned, but I believe right now we have a tension between strengthening the dollar through military-industrial complex operations, technical industrial complex operations like stable coins, but ultimately the financial industrial complex, they want the world to be, I believe, multipolar, which I think is a conclusion you came to.
Okay,
and they want to...
Let me wind down right there, because one of the things that's really off base, nobody talks about it, people want to believe that Trump has really taken on the World Economic Forum, taken on the globalists, taken on the international banker. Trump works for Mrs. Rothschild. Let's all just grow up. He was bailed out by Wilbur Ross and that kind of team that does turnarounds for things like the casinos, the Trump organization, Venezuela, BP, what have you. That's what Trump's doing. This isn't hard. Okay? It doesn't all come out of his mind. He's just really good. If you think of Kamala Harris and Trump, what they were really doing is playing out two explanations of how the world's going to be reset. We had one that was like, well, we have to take care of the LGBTQ people and reduce global warming, so we have to invade Greenland. See how that would have worked? Instead, we got this asshole who's just like, yeah, we're gonna seize Venezuela. You know, we'll see what happens. You know, it's all theater. It's all reality TV. Let me just give you that one more time. Of course, that went off the. It's great working out here in the country where you're lucky if the Wi-Fi actually works. And that's why we're all going to get on the Starlink system, which is attached to SpaceX. And let me just...
They want the world to be, I believe, multipolar, which I think is a conclusion you came to. And they want to partner with these different blocks. And so ultimately they will win, which to me translates into a weak...
So Mr. Global's going to win. Now, I always have pointed out this weird little thing that nobody talks about was when Trump was first elected in 2016. The first thing he did was go to Saudi Arabia. No, sorry. The first thing he did, I remember right out of the gate, was we're going to move the embassy to Jerusalem. And that's like a big dog whistle, is that he's part of the Death Star International operation, which is run by Mr. Global or Mrs. Rothschild. The Rothschilds created Israel, or our friend King Bolson, who refers to these people as the owners and controllers of global financialized capital. It's all the same thing. It's just a slightly different flavor. Second thing, then he went to Saudi Arabia and he got $100 billion in weapons systems sold. And I think that's because the Epstein, Mr. Global, big mob thing, they cycle that money through the military industrial complex, Boeing, Lockheed Martin, and the $100 billion was their next round of funding for the Black Ops. It's very much how Catherine Austin Fitts talks about this. She's like, the defense budget isn't $800 billion. That's the one that's sort of above board. Just real quick, when she took over at HUD, she's an investment banker, okay? She took over at HUD as the assistant secretary of HUD. Now, frequently that's how the world works. Like, the guy at the top of the thing is the guy that goes on TV and talks the talk and tells the story. Then the people under him actually know what the fuck is going on. She's the person that actually wanted to know what the fuck is going on at HUD. So she said, I need the budget. And her underlings, like the permanent Washington, as Jeffrey Sachs calls it, it's a better word than deep state. He calls it permanent Washington. The people in permanent Washington said, no, you can't have that. And she said, what do you mean I can't have the budget of HUD? Well, that's really not your pay grade. So she just picked up the phone and called the White House and told, not Bush Sr., but somebody close to him, hey, guys, I raised you $30 million from Wall Street, from Republican circles, and I want the fucking budget or we're going to have a problem. So they got her the budget. The budget was run by Boeing. So her first thing was, why is the fucking HUD budget run by Boeing? It's because it's all black ops. Okay? What's happening in Minnesota is all black ops. It's the black ops are now on the street. Like, it's not a conspiracy theory. It's on the street. Okay? But I know I'm all over the place, but this is what I want to finish with. The third thing that Trump did was go to China. And not a lot came out of it. The Chinese actually like Trump. He's sort of gaudy and over the top. That's how they operate. And it was well received. And he said a lot after saying, like, the Chinese are ripping us off. He really did a nice job. I think met President Xi on a couple occasions. On the way home, I thought I was like, what is going on? President Xi, Putin, and Trump meet in, of all places, Ho Chi Minh City. You might remember we fought a pretty big war there. It was formerly called Saigon. And the announcement was, I'll never forget this, like nobody talked about it. And I was like, oh my God. The announcement was that Western banks are now allowed to operate in China. That's all you need to know, people. That's the only factoid. I don't know if she's ever referenced that. If like I ever get a chance to meet her, I hope I do, or do a live or something, I will bring that up and say, that's when I knew that he was one of them. That's when I knew that Trump worked for Trump wasn't going to overwhelm or push back against Mr. Global. By the way, George Soros isn't really Mr. Global, but George Soros is sort of part of Mr. Global, but he's not. Everybody wants to make this simple, like if we just got Soros, or if we just got the Koch brothers, or we just got the fossil fuel people. Okay, go get the fossil fuel people and you won't have any gasoline. Like that's how that works. Go replace everything like in Europe with windmills and solar panels, and as soon as a snowstorm comes, like you have no electricity, okay? We have this like Mickey Mouse things because we don't really like to admit that things like capitalism and democracy maybe don't really exist the way we think they do. So if you just go to the Solari report, click through the 5 or 6, you'll learn more about what's going on by listening to those 5 videos that I just played than hours of the Atlantic Monthly and cable TV and TikTokers and Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes and his flannel shirt bullshit. There's very, very few sources of good information. We'd like you to join us on Substack. We'd like you to become a subscriber. We're going to send you a token whether you want it or not. We're going to make an offer to you. Please go get a Coinbase wallet and we're going to send you a token. We want to move you deeper into the Ethereum world of tokenized real world assets, thinking about how digital assets and your investments go together, and working on things like Farcaster, because in 5 years, 3 years, you're going to look back on this and be like, that Bruno guy was talking about Farcaster before anybody even knew what it was. These open source decentralized models, whether it's blockchain or AI or social media or Web3, are the future. ChatGPT is over. That was a period piece run by an asshole named Sam Altman. By the way, they fired him in 2023. The board fired Sam Altman. He was recently served a court order or a summons while he was on stage. This is what my point to you is. They have to put these reality TV stars back on TV because as soon as he left OpenAI, the thing just tanked. So they have to put the Allstate man, the Obama, the Trump, the guy that says the right things. They had to put it back on to lift it back up and hold it together. But OpenAI is falling apart. So you're in this massive struggle of Mr. Global's going this way and we can't do anything about that. The question is, what are you going to do?